Okay, just a couple of housebreaking tips before we get started. As you probably noticed, we'll be recording this session. So if you're not able to sort of see the other breakout rooms, everything will be recorded and will be shared with you afterwards. So you will have access to all of the information and insights that are shared. We do encourage very much interaction and discussion. We've prepared a very short presentation just to get everybody started and share some tips and advice. But the idea is really for us to have an open discussion. So please feel free to answer any questions, to put any questions that you have in the chat, or we'll also have plenty of opportunity once we've gone through the short presentation to really have an open discussion. So very much hope you have questions for the panel of experts. As I said, we highly appreciate the interaction. So I'd like to introduce to you the panel of the experts that we put together today. And for this particular breakout session, you actually have a really great set of panelists. We have two experts from UPS Europe that are focusing on the European side, and two experts from UPS Nigeria. So I think you really get a good mix about all of the practicalities and tips and tricks about importing, exporting, and the fantastic world of international trade. So starting off today will be Elena Salo. She is the West District Marketing Manager at UPS Europe. She looks after a set of countries ranging from Belgium, the Netherlands, Spain, France, Italy, and Portugal. I don't think I've missed any of them. And has the overall marketing expertise for those countries. And she'll be sharing some practical tips and tricks on exporting with you today. And she'll be supported by Margarita Potente, who is our customs brokerage manager for UPS Europe. After their presentation, we'll hand it over to Moroleo Igeleke, who is the country manager for UPS in Nigeria and is basically managing all of UPS within the country in Nigeria. And he'll be supported by Obi, who is supporting us from a customs brokerage perspective, also with a lot of expertise about importing and exporting into and out of Nigeria. So without further ado, I'd like to very much hand it over to Elena to get us started. As mentioned, feel free to add any questions that you have during the session in the chat. I'll be keeping an eye on them, and we'll be getting to the questions shortly, or otherwise we'll open it up for discussion after the short presentation. So I'll hand it over to Elena. I'm going to give you control right now. Over to you, Elena.
Okay, I'm trying to take control. Hello, everyone. Okay, I think it should work now. Okay, so welcome to the breakout session. As Ingrid mentioned, we will share practical tips about exporting. And my task today will be to focus on the packaging, which is even more important when you are sending the package abroad. And then after that, Margarita will give a highlight on the compliance and documentation, followed by then Moroleo on the export and import in Nigeria. I'm going to skip, there's a little bit on the Brexit and EU VAT reform also. So to get us started, we have, as we heard before, had, sorry about that, it jumped out. Examined the European small and medium companies. And one of the concerns is the physical safety of the contents of the packaging. Therefore, how to make it successful, I have 5 very brief tips to focus on. So first of all, I think it's kind of taking its time to change. So number one is starting with the box. So it kind of sounds simple, but it's all in the box. And what we have at UPS, the automated facilities where the package is moving. So to have a very durable double-wall cardboard box would be very important. And also not to have the box too small because of the content. It needs some, of course, cushioning in there. And one tip also, when you would use reuse a box, be certain to remove all the stickers that, for example, would have like a dangerous good marking, because those would be then kind of stopped at the facility. Then moving on to the second tip, it's talking about the cushioning. And of course, when you have big enough box, you're able to put enough cushioning in there. And the sort of good tip is to have a 5 to 6 centimeter distance to the out wall of the box to ensure that there is enough room. And of course, for the fragile items, they should be wrapped separately. Then moving on, the shipping label. And here is one tip, of course, then to put one on the outside of the box, but also slip one in the box, because in case the label would come off, it would be then easier for example, UPS to then find out what actually is the shipper and consignee, and that would be kind of very helpful in the process. When you then think about, you have then the contents in, you have cushioned it, sealing the box is key. And then if you have a box which would be like over 25 kilos, to use the very hard, heavy-duty tape, that is key, because when there would be an unfortunate event of, for example, damages of the box or things then coming out from the box, it is very often related to the sealing of the box. And then my last tip for today would be that where to place the label. And we've seen labels pretty much everywhere on the box, but to put it on the largest side of the box, because when it moves on the belt, it's very easy then for us to scan it, and then the box will not be kind of sidelined anywhere, but it moves really smoothly to the network. So these were like very high-level tips, and if there's any questions later or sort of experiences, we are very happy to go through those. But with that, I'd like to move it to Margherita, my colleague in Italy. So we will then move into the documentation.
Many thanks, Elina. Good afternoon to everybody. We saw how to prepare work packages, and now let's talk about the compliance of the documentation. Let's see why you need to provide for the commercial or pro forma invoice. Well, basically, it is the basis for the export declaration, as well as the reference at import to determine the duties and taxes to be paid. So missing document is the most common reason for customs delays. So please ensure you always provide your commercial documentation accompanying your shipments. If you would like, you can visit our guide on our webpage, and it will help you to prepare the mandatory documentation needed for shipments clearing customs. Here are some important tips to complete a commercial invoice and facilitate international trade. Be accurate in all the information indicated in your invoice. Complete the ship from and ship to boxes with full details, including phone number. Can you please? Thank you. Yeah. Including phone number, because it will be helpful in case of contact needed. Provide adequate goods description, indicate the harmonized tariffs code, currency, and value. You can use traceability on a UPS website to manage the flow of your goods. With this tool, you won't lose your time on document preparation. You would be able to inquire on costs, check for restrictions at country specific, and tariff code will be also at your fingertips. Always provide 3 copies of the invoice. But if you want to accelerate clearance and go green, you can use the paperless invoice service, which is an electronic and sustainable solution for commercial invoices and other customs required documentation. Always state the reason of exports and any other important information it may be required. Next slide, please. Okay. 2021 started with big challenges. Indeed, the first was Brexit, which introduced the concept of customs formalities between EU and UK. On the 24th of September 2020, the United Kingdom and the European Union reached a post-Brexit trade agreement. But deals does not mean to treat business as usual. In fact, import duty is only waived depending on the origin of the goods, which have to be proved according to origin rules. Preferential treatment can be claimed only for products originating in UK or EU. However, even with the deal in place, businesses may face more paperwork and administration when shipping, and costs and adjustment to supply chain may also be considered. Not least, customs processes require an economic operator registration and identification number, the EORI number, as well as a VAT registration to UK authorities to apply, for example, for deferment payment. Northern Ireland remained aligned to a limited set of EU rules. Goods shipped between the EU and Northern Ireland supervision, controls, or formalities. Next slide. Okay. On the 1st of July, we will face the second big challenge, the new VAT reform. Let's see what will change. VAT will be abolished for goods with a value up to 22 euro. A new scheme, the Import One-Stop Shop, will be introduced to allow and facilitate VAT payment by the supplier in the EU for all VAT value. ISS will provide some advantages, like, for example, one single registration for all the 27 EU member states, and consumer will be aware of all government charges, and the VAT monthly payments will be allowed, which gives you a cash flow advance. In addition, online marketplaces would be considered as deemed supplied and would be liable to settle the VAT into the EU. Next, please. So to conclude this part, let's go through a useful checklist. First recommendation is to find out the VAT rate in the destination country in EU. Consider registering in the ISS platform for B2C shipments up to 150 euro, or appoint an intermediary to act on your behalf. Include your ISS number in your shipping documentation. Consider the free domicile option if you do not choose the ISS, or inform the consignee about import fees. Review your agreement with online marketplace. Provide full detailed information on your invoice. And remember, samples or gift will not be included in the ISS scheme and will require a formal entry process. Thank you all for your attention. And with that, I hand it over to you, Morleo.
Good afternoon, everybody. Just trying to bring in the perspective from Nigeria, from anyone interested in exporting in Nigeria. Exporting in Nigeria has been tremendously successful. Last year alone, we did, this year alone, we did over $2 billion worth of exports. So we are constantly trying to encourage people to export more, and the Nigerian Export Commission is encouraging Nigerians to export a lot more. Nigeria is a country that is promoting export and has provision for incentives for the exporters. Export could either be small package or cargo. If you require to register with Nigerian Export Population Council, you go to https://nepc.gov.ng. Please, next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so when you're shipping, there are three kinds of shipping options you always have, three major types. There's a small package. These are smaller packages, itemized. They must not exceed 70 kg or 150 pounds. And so you can ship this by air or by ground. It's normally done only by these two methods, air or ground. Depends on how fast you want it and whether you're doing domestic or international. But it must not be more than 70 kg or 150 pounds. Then there's the heavy freight, which is palletized. And this is containerized a lot of times, and it has normally a single piece. Service levels include air or ocean, so we can ship over the air, over the ocean for heavy freight. Then finally, there's the LTL or the FTL, which is the less than truckload or the full truckload. These shipments also are palletized or single pieced, and they are services which can only be done by ground movement only. And it can be used for cross-border movements. If you're a Nigerian, you can move to West African nations through this other method, or even to some East African nations through this method. Next slide, please. So while exporting, there are some things you should take note of, and that is the prohibited goods. There are some goods that are prohibited. Prohibited means they will not allow you to export these goods, no matter what you do, because it will never pass the Nigerian border in the first place. Items like corn, maize, corn, timber, raw hides and skin, scrap metals, unprocessed rubber latex and rubber lumps, artifacts and antiques, wildlife, animal, especially the endangered species like crocodile, elephant, lizards, eagles, monkeys, zebras, and also you cannot export imported packages. For more information on all this, you can go on to www.upstoday.com/prohibited items, so you can take note of that. Next slide, please. Also, when you're shipping, there are some products or there are some things that are referred to as restricted. That is majorly our jewelry. So your costume jewelries can only be shipped with the conditions below. Does not contain precious metals, stones, ivory, or coral beads. It must not contain those things. Number two, the retail price must be lower than $150, and then it must not exceed $500. If you can fulfill these conditions, then you can ship. Please note that gold in itself is not acceptable. So it is restricted totally. So other international prohibited and restricted items can also be viewed on the same website, www.ups.com/prohibited items. Next slide, please. Okay, so when you are shipping a another one we should note is the cosmetics. This is a bit of a very troublesome product to export, especially in Nigeria, because a lot of countries have different restrictions. I'd like to focus on maybe like 2 countries that are very popular, or one really, that's Italy. Italy has a lot of restrictions to exporting cosmetics. One, when you're exporting cosmetics, you cannot export more than 2 types of cosmetics. You cannot, for example, you're exporting coconut oil and you're also exporting olive oil, and then you want to bring another product and export with that same package. Italians will not accept. They wanted to only do two different types of exports, olive oil and coconut oil. You cannot add any other oil again. And then you can only do a maximum of 2 of every type. So you must note that. Also, if you intend to export more than these numbers, then you must get a permit, a health permit from the Health Ministry Border Office that will allow you to do that. Also, if your cosmetics must have Italian description, it must be in Italian, and it must be compliant with EU requirements regarding labeling. So these are some of the things for Italy alone. Obviously, South Africa is a lot more limited in what it's asking for, just your declarations and your invoices. Other countries have other things. So if you need more information on this, you could contact us or you could communicate, ask questions, and then we'll tell you where to go to get information. Next slide, please. Okay, so I will hand over from this point to my colleague, my brokerage manager in Obi. She'll continue from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Moralayo. So another thing we ought to note when we want to ship is the billing options. What the billing option does is actually to assign responsibilities in terms of the freight cost, the duties, and then the insurance cost. For prepaid packages, the shipper pays the shipping cost, but the duty and the taxes are paid by the receiver at the point of delivery. For the freight collect option, the receiver pays all the charges. That means, like, sometimes we initiate a pickup from the US, EU, so the receiver is paying for all the costs. For free domicile, the shipper opts to pay all the charges. That means the freight, the cost, and the duties at the delivery, and the shipper bears all the costs. And for third-party option, you find where the shipper pays the shipping charge, and then a third party, not the receiver at the delivery point, paying the duties and the taxes. So when we look at it, we also have the Incoterms. The Incoterms can actually be related to these billing options. So let's look at the next slide, please. Okay, so we talked about, when we're talking about the billing option, we talked about free domicile, we talked about the prepaid, we talked about the freight collect, and then we talked about the freight collect and then the third party. So the DDP, when we talk about DDP, that's deliver duty paid. We're talking about free domicile. When we're talking about Ex Works, that means the buyer is responsible for everything. That can be related to the freight collect option, and so on and so on. So usually the Incoterm terms apply when you're doing a larger scale shipment, but for the smaller scale shipment, you find that we use the billing options I've described. All of them can be used interchangeably. Next slide, please. Then our documentation is actually very important for us. Marguerite has talked about the commercial invoice. The commercial invoice is actually very critical. It's so important to every shipment that is leaving Nigeria. In fact, how important it is that for Canada, even if you're sending a document, you need to attach the commercial invoice. So commercial invoice is a must for every cargo leaving Nigeria. And then you also have the packing list, of course. But there are certain items that we want to ship that, of course, will require other documentation. The deal is that when you're shipping in smaller quantities, you require limited documents. But the larger the volume of the shipment that you want to do, then the more intensive, more documents you will need to provide. But there are items also of peculiar nature that ultimately you must add additional document, whether they are very minute or they are very plenty. So we're just going to take a few of them. It's not exhausted in the slide that we're going to be looking at, but like Molayo said, there are time for questions, and we can always reach out to you specific when you have questions concerning your products. Please, can we look at the next slide? Next slide. Sorry, next slide, please. Okay, coming on. It's a bit slow.
Okay, I think it went too
Okay.
far now. There.
Yeah, you went too far. Yeah, sure. Okay, so for instance, for people that do gemstone and soil sample, first of all, they must be able to produce their Export Promotion Council certificate. The documents I'm talking about is actually in addition to your commercial invoice and your packing list. And then you also must produce an export permit from the Federal Ministry of Mine and Steel. So it's important that these documents accompany such shipments, otherwise they could be delayed in transit. For cosmetics, usually we require the NAFDAC certification. For wooden or created item, we require the quarantine certificate. For agricultural product, we require the phytosanitary certificate. For medications, you need to attach the doctor's permit along with the invoice and the receipt that used in purchasing the medication. So, and so on and so forth. So it's important that we get our documentation right from the onset to avoid delays to our shipment. So having said that, we've by no means taught all the things that you'll be required to know when you want to ship from Nigeria. but because of time, we're going to stop here. And of course, we'll share our email. So if you have any inquiries or anything you want to know after this meeting, we'll be able to get back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Obi, Moroleo, and Margarita and Elena. Thank you. As you can see, if there's any questions coming in through the chat, so I couldn't actually check it while we were going through it. Okay, I think I see two questions here. I'll start with the first one. I'm not sure if you can see the screen as well, but good evening. Oh, sorry, I cannot pronounce his name. We are in an agro commodities product and export from Lagos, Nigeria websites. Okay, is it possible for to use UPS for gemstones export businesses? And if yes, what are the requirements from an exporting country and the receiving country? I think I'll send this question over to Moroleo and to Obi to answer in terms of exporting gemstones and what are the requirements.
Okay, when I spoke about additional documents required, I did mention the two critical documents that must accompany your gemstone, and that is the certificate of export from Federal Ministry of Mine and Steel. And it's important that the certificate you have is valid, because you find out sometimes when the certificate has expired, some shippers still want to use the same certificate, and that would mean that your products cannot fly. And then for the country that you're exporting to, you know, different countries have different regulations. And what we try to do for our customers is to check the regulation at each point in time on the specific item you want to ship out. You know, because like in the past 2-3 months, of course, a lot has changed even in the Nigerian phase. So it's the same thing all over the world. We're in a very dynamic time, and there are a lot of regulations come up at any time. So it's important that we keep up to date. So once you're interested in shipping, you can let us know the quantity, the country, and then we'll be able to check up for you that it's okay for you to go. But those documents I listed are the basic documents you need to attach to your product. Thank you.
In addition to the documentations, please note that it must be less than $500 per item. So we will not be able to do anything higher than that value of $500 exporting the gemstones. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions from any of the participants? Please feel free to answer your questions straight away to any of the to the expert panels. Please go ahead.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, I have a question for someone that wants to start an export business, like to the Netherlands, like exporting African foods like fish, catfish, palm oil, and some other things. What advice can you give for the new startup?
Who would like to take this question?
I think
Yeah, I was waiting for Obi to take the question because Obi is the brokerage manager.
Okay. And the truth is, from Nigerian point of view, you can actually ship them out of Nigeria. But the issue is that the destination country, especially the EU countries, fish products are actually banned, okay? And for oil, at UPS, actually, our policy, we don't carry palm oil at all. We don't do that. We do other oils, we do olive oil and some other oil if they're well packaged and in smaller quantities. So I don't know if Marguerite can give us from the EU point of view, because I know that fish and fish products usually to UK and to US is a no-no.
Yeah, it is correct, Obi. I mean, you said it perfectly. These kind of goods need to be checked at export country, but also at destination country, and especially for food stuff or fisheries like fishes and so on. there are a lot of restrictions at import and a lot of controls not done by customs agency, but done by the health ministry or the authorities that have the control on this kind of items. So it means that if something arrives, has to be packed into the correct way, because these goods are also perishable and need, of course, to pass the control at import. So it is quite complicated to ship these kinds of goods. UPS is not always accepting this kind of items, so it's better to check with the country of destination if these are accepted or not, within our service, of course. Thank you.
Okay, I think there were some other questions as well, so please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Olivia from Amsterdam. We are building an e-commerce platform for entrepreneurs in our community. I was just wondering, if we choose to use UPS on our platform, do we get, are there rates for business people? Or is it the same like for everyone? Do we get cheaper rates when we are exporting when we are sending our products within Europe? Yeah.
Elena, I think this is a good question for you to respond to.
Yeah, great question. So yes, I think in the sort of UPS world, when there is this kind of e-commerce platform, and we have multiple different ways to give out rates.
Okay.
We have also like a digital access program that's starting. And I guess the way to maybe start to maybe, I mean, you could contact me, I can give my contact information, and I could get you direct to the right person. But definitely there is,
Okay.
I think maybe like 10 different ways to give you rates on depending like the destination and also the need that you have. But definitely it's a good possibility.
Yes, I will appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
One thing to add, I think for Olivia and for anybody else as well, after this this session, you will actually receive an email from us as a follow-up with some of the follow-up information, some special rates, but also which I recommend highly for everybody to sign up to. You'll get an invite to do a 15-minute free virtual consultation. So you'll be able to talk to somebody at UPS that can basically look at your business setup and advise you what would be the best way for us to partner. So I think that's definitely a nice way for you to move forward as well, Olivia.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, were there any other questions from anybody?
Yes. Hello.
Hi. Go ahead.
Hi. I'm from Nigeria. I was the one that asked the question on gemstones. I wasn't around when it was answered. I'm sorry to take you back. Please, can it be repeated?
Okay, Obi, back to you.
Okay, Olusola, hi. My name is Obi, and I've actually shared my email on the platform. Yes, you can export your gemstone. You need to get a certificate from the Federal Ministry of Mine and Steel, an export permit, okay? Then you also need to be registered with the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. Presently, if you're not registered and you're ready to export, and maybe you have a group and within yourself you can you have a colleague that could help you ship, that already has the certificate, then you can start. But otherwise, it's good you get your own registered, and then you can ship at any point in time. But you need those two documents accompanying any gemstone leaving the country.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Hello. Hi, can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I just want to ask a quick question. It's been quite difficult to get details in terms of wanting to be an agent in Lagos, Nigeria. It's been really tough. And then what the rates are like, are they competitive? I already work as an agent for DHL, and their rates are pretty good, and they go out of Nigeria every single day. A lot of people are familiar. It's quite easy. It's a walk in the park in terms of export and import. And we get, on behalf of myself now, like I said, it's in terms of an agency. What's the arrangement like? What are the, it's not as stringent from what I'm getting from this breakout session. We don't need all the certifications that seem to be displayed whilst we were getting educated. I think the most we've ever come across is in terms of drugs, you know, getting a prescription from a doctor, and that's at the worst, that's the only thing, you know, they normally ask for. A lot of things are normally shipped from Nigeria, because Nigerians like to have their local foods, you know, sent abroad to their family members. At the most, they say things like, oh, we can't take a whole dried fish or whatnot. But a lot of times, a lot of foods go through, especially when they're dry or they're in powdered form. So I don't know, UPS sometimes, from my investigation so far, I could be wrong, I haven't seen competitive rates. I haven't seen an approachability kind of. It's not been easy sourcing information. I don't know if that can be demystified whilst you guys are currently online.
Olamide, we hear you. I've just dropped my details. Well, I'm dropping my details online. So if you want to communicate with us as an agent in shipping, a shipping agent, we'll be willing to listen to you. I've just dropped my email, megeleke@ups.com. You can send me a mail, please. I'll be glad to respond to you. We have our pricing, our rates are quite competitive. We will work with you to the best of our ability. Thank you. Thank you for calling. Thank you for asking.
Okay, and I wanted to chip in. We also do send dry food, a whole lot of them, to different countries. But what we don't want to do is for your item to get stuck in transit. And so that's why, like, we usually check, depending on what you want to ship out, we check with the destination country's regulations. And if it's not going to be accepted in that country, at least by the UPS in that country, then we usually don't pick from Nigeria. Really, we don't have problem clearing anything from Nigerian end, but the issue is that we want to make sure that it gets delivered. And that is why for some items, we say no. And you talked about a whole lot of certification. Usually it's only when you have those items, like when we talk about having the quarantine certificate, is to make sure that the wood that you're using, like for created items, usually they're bulky. So you have the quarantine services right there at the export shed doing the clearing, and they want to make sure that that wood has gone through tests to make sure there are no ants. And also the destination country is also interested that you don't bring in parasites into their country. And that is what that quarantine certificate is telling them, that yes, this has gone through test, this is, and no parasite or insect found in it, and then so it's good to go. So basically that's why we request for some of those documents, not as if we want to burden you or want to make things difficult for you, but just to make sure that your product has a seamless flow into the destination country.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much.
So we're waiting to hear from you, Olamide, and our rates are very competitive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone, I think we have time for one more question before we go back to the main stage. Does anybody else have a question, anything you'd like to ask or share with us?
Yeah, hello everyone.
Hi.
Thank you for the opportunity to be part of this. I just like a quick question from the European part. I want to know if you do the same service like Amazon, that if I ship something from China directly to your platform, that is UPS platform, could you help me to send it to addresses I give? Is it possible?
Did I understand correctly that the shipment that comes from China with Amazon
Yeah.
being directed to somewhere else than
Yes.
yourself, if I understood the question right? I would think, if I understood correctly, we have this kind of third-party shipping option. I'm not sure if Margarita on the brokerage side, I would say that as a shipping option, I would think it's existing.
Yeah, I understand it is probably more related to sold to and shipped to option into the, which is allow one party to be the party to be billed to, and the other party the destination or the shipping to party. Is that is that correct? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is possible.
Yeah, and I guess what the countries are of billing and then shipping, I think maybe it would be good to look at that combination and then see also with the VAT how that works. But
yeah,
definitely
of course,
the shipping option is there.
Yeah, and of course that has to be specified and stated also into the invoice. I mean, all this information have to be also filled into the transport contract, and you have to choose the billing option related to this service, and also into your commercial invoice. It would be nice to indicate who is the person who is the sold to party and who is the shipped to party.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. I think I'll still need more information, more enlightenment on that. Then I'll write to you.
Okay, and I think you can see like my email there. We can then talk together. You can take my email, and if you have the specific example, we can take a look at it. Because I think we're running out of time. It's like a timer.
We are indeed. I want to thank everybody for your participation and for all of your questions. And you can press the blue button on the corner to say leave room to go back to the main stage. So I'll see you over there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.